Apologies from the request. We've got KP here on their behalf. We've also got apologies from Sarah Rees. Are there any other apologies that we need to make on there? Any declaration of interest? No. Shall we go straight on to 161 then? Minutes for the Board of Directors meeting on the 6th of December. Somebody want to approve it, the correct minute? Yeah. Seconded? Yeah, great, thank you. And then the action sheets and matters arising, Paul, anything today?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. There's a couple of items that are listed there that feature in today's agenda. There's one item in relation to size. I think some actions will be taken up, but I haven't disclosed that down.
Great, thank you. We'll move on then, matters for consideration, item 163, patient story. I ask the Chief Nursing Officer to introduce everyone.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to Julia. Julia is the clinical ward manager, and she's here to present patient story. Actually, it is kind of our public story where the team has significantly reduced the patient fall from ward temperature, and procedures which have been implemented and embedded to Julia is doing very
Morning, everybody. And yes, I'm Julie Stevenson, and I'm Ward Manager on Ward 22, where I'm I'd like to present this presentation on what myself and my team for 2 weeks on Ward 22. Sorry, next slide. Okay. So this story begins in May 2022, and we had a lady admitted with you, and she was admitted onto Ward 22 working with dementia. And she was a very high fall and a woman that had fall at home. This was really required advisory due to infection, and also required enhanced supervision at level 4, which is strict 1-to-1 supervision within arm's length all the time. Unfortunately, in May, she had a little fall during the night in the science room, suffered severe hemophilia. Following this fall, obviously, I took it to an investigation, which identified lack of impairment and learning. So through the night, it was identified that the night routine, wasn't appropriate. People were undertaking tasks that could be done effectively. And through the night, on this particular night as well, a couple of members of staff they're going through a lot, and so obviously that was due to the staff on the ward. Really look at how we could, build on them. We commenced our supervision areas, so on the ward we have two supervision days, and we really focused on the enhanced care of our patients that were at level 3, which is within our site, and level 4, 1-to-1. And we also put it like a testing approach to patient safety. So the nurses in there would wear the yellow lanyards, and they had to leave. We would always pass over with staff, so there was always going to be 24 hours a day. The practice became fully embedded really in probably a couple of months. And now we find even now staff are always in the day with their patients rather than gathering at the nurse's station. Even in our nursing visual patients all the time. So since May 2022, Ward 22 haven't had any further inpatient falls where there's been harm and lapses in care. So from this patient, so that's moving in 2 years. Supervision lanyards, we use them for, like I say, a couple of months until safe practice regarding the health care and unfortunately we can't stop every patient from falling. And I think now any falls that we do have, usually the patient has capacity, very independently mobile. There are ladies that are waiting home for assessment and have to take themselves to the bathroom because they want to be independent to get home. And just last week when they were an example, fully independent once it's able, unfortunately, fully asleep. She was absolutely fine. Just I was actually sort of include around how staff feel their well-being, when we patients fall. So we did recently have a fall with harm. There were no acts of care. The patient was allowed to go into supervision and being one-to-one within the arm's length at the time of fall. Fortunately, the patient was a little bit physically aggressive within and pushed the bedside table towards the nurse and contact. She could have that very well and she fell. So the member of staff, obviously she was very upset, she needed a lot of support, and actually she then went around and her mental health after the holiday. So slowly she was actually breathing about and and contributing more. I think to staff on Ward 22 and myself, we're so proud of our achievements, and we take their priority in patient services. We review enhanced care levels daily, because we can have up to maybe 17. Some of those patients are level 2, which they don't need to be vision based, but they've been moved those regular checks with final staff. But the team do that daily, review those enhanced care levels specifically. We find that patients are transferring from medical unit 2. If they have dementia, that it's probably, the stress, but we usually find that they perhaps then are in level 4, but within 48 hours, 48 hours in a better care, new environment, and that's reduced. So just obviously finally, just patient safety is number one priority for the nursing team. And this is illustrated on the next slide, what has been achieved. Next slide. So obviously at the beginning we used the graph that was sort of around about 2021. I came into post just before blue, and that's what we achieved. So Ward 22 we're having sort of anywhere up to 14 falls, and then all over a couple of months period. So into the blue now is they are our patients that have to unfortunately fallen or been ready to do a lot of different things. It's just
We'll take the next slide
Yeah.
as all there then. Just repeat any questions. Anything on the say for all?
Not just table and thank you for the possibility. Because the evidence on the case, including those that are to maintain safety.
Down the chief exec, down. Julie, well done. I know you're nervous, I think. Very, very well presented, thank you. And it is important, I think, as a board, we have to look at SPC charts, we've got, we see patterns of variation. They are tens and hundreds of patients on that board now. We've had better outcomes, better experience, less staff as a result of the leadership. So what we're about, thank you for presenting in that way, it's really important. I've got a question about, I guess, the approach you took to engaging the teams. We talk about improvement science and continuous quality improvement. How did you get people to engage in this program of work and then get it embedded?
Yeah, I think so. When I joined Ward 22 as the manager in September 2021, it was completely new. And I'd actually come from a background in education. So I think a lot of the team have changed. Quite a lot of the team left when I came to host. Unfortunately, these members were quite negative members of staff, unfortunately. So, you know, I recruited, and I think we have such a lot of respect for each other. You know, that I appreciate. They know that I know how hard they work, and you know, it was just about getting them together and saying, look, you know, we really need to make a difference, and support each other really. You know, for the first couple of weeks, there was mistakes, probably happened when we were trying to invest in. Actually, we all took it on board, and you know, we're a great team. We work really, really hard.
So I know our ambition around continuing to quality improve, take really good pieces of work like this and spread them, share the learning, and then embed it elsewhere. So I'm assuming then that the work from Ward 22 is featuring our broader continuous improvement program will be featuring all wards.
It is to go to the system about the different science and the system. Sometimes it takes awards and stuff to get the power to innovate and come up with ideas like people using money and to actually look after the person innovate. So when you think about it, there's about 21 awards in total to quality improvement around social outfits to look at forward. To see how they can improve their awards area around the science area. And the showcase the way. So we are going to be a step ahead where all our quality improvement indicators will be through our education. And we invite the board members who want to be panel members and also the board in our areas where we will review how, for example, what we have presented, looking through the dashboard for that ward and see where they are in potential showcase, where they got with the market improvement plan of this is what we can do. So that's where we're going through. We will have the improvement science like if being used as a methodology. We will have local change as a methodology. But basically, the biggest improvement for me is empowering staff to actually take for our work. And we are going to use those especially we are going to
look forward to how you could score then.
I've got several questions heading your way. I've got you, Jalabani, Karen, Adrian. I'll take it in that order. You,
Yeah, Aaron said that question. That's great. We actually take it out elsewhere, but I think I want to make one comment. It's really positive because we see on the quality growth committee that we see here that falls are starting to across the trust start to stabilise a bit and possibly, I don't want to spoil, starting to drop. But I mean, I think they work with your ward in the microcosm is really what we want to see. And it just shouts to me that the culture on the ward is so important that I keep banging on about every person having two jobs. One to actually do their work, the other job is to improve it. And it just seems that that culture is really starting to get embedded, particularly where we take the lanyards away. And then everybody felt it was their responsibility to carry on and just spot when things need. So I think that's, I just want to say, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was going to talk about scaling up the learning from the world, but thank you for the good work. Is there a forum maybe this would have in terms of awards or networks where we can be showcasing some of the success stories so that the team can be learning from each other?
Yeah, we do. We do what we were here when we showcase them each ward manager. So we do arrange events where we have all our ward managers presenting some of their quality improvement work. And sometimes the rooms are absolutely full years doing that. You know, sometimes when we celebrate and share learning, it's amazing the buzz that you get in the room and how they teach and so. So we do have those forums, and their accreditation will be another forum because then people can sound a bit, you know, the committees. in turn and have the courage of wanting to do more and learning from each other. So there are forums, as we have, yeah, we have to.
Thank you.
Karen?
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Julie. Just a couple of questions. Brilliant story of leadership, and it's fantastic to hear that. And I know this was a focus on falls and the enhanced care and supervision as well. I'm just wondering, are there other areas of improvement that you've seen for patients just on the back of that focus on falls? What are the other things that maybe you didn't focus on, but you can see that have improved too? Yeah, I think as well, obviously we focus on pressure. I think I work with a team who are always thinking about what can we do to protect our patients. So as soon as the new Institute came out, which identified what was the patient ground pressure was, and sort of red, amber, blue, I think it is. And so, you know, the first day we did that, we laminated the coloured card that highlighted what pressure area relief should be, and they are above the patient's bed. So it's plain to see that that patient is a perfect in red and needs that longitude around the pressure area. So we did that. Alongside the falls, I think a lot of the falls were happening because patients that had cerebral dementia were falls with, they were seeing their bed rails were up, which is a no-no. You know, the risk assessment tells us that. And so we also introduced bed rail signage, red bed rail signs for do not use bed rails, and blue to use them. So again, the staff, you know, when you have bank staff or students, learners, sometimes it's automatic, they just put the bed rails up. So it's having those visual prompts for anybody that comes to the wall and for the team to be able to do that. And we sort of reshuffled our handover sheet as well to put all the real patient safety information on there, like the bed rails and the chaperone and the Thank you. And the related question, if I may, it's more of a data question, so it may be someone else. It's just fantastic to see that improvement on the C chart. I just wonder, going forward, is there a case for recalibrating those control limits so we can see more fine-tuned improvement as we go forward? It's great to see it where it is, but where's the fine-tuning inside that? Now you've got to establish this. So it's a data question.
I mean, we've seen that we've already sort of yes, we see that for more local level as a part of the rollout of strategy following on before the so really to just try to understand the extent to which data can be dispersed across the organization widely involvement. Priority items maybe, but what we're going to do is we go to an annual refresh. So we now need to take the feedback with the department of that data as part of that and apply sectors for our across the organization room or it's fundamental support to connect.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry, for opening agent, that's if you want.
I just wanted to support Julia as well on the, that you have a Humphrey group where all families called people. I know we report on those two. You know, idea, but behind the Humphrey have the other indicators of nutrition foundation or investigation. Insurance that we put up with too, but we look at the reasons before for this.
Within that as a visual one.
You. First of all, Julie, I mean, congratulations on leading the team to be able to make such a sustained impact in terms of living with them. Fantastic. Replicate that elsewhere across the trust. That was your main congratulations. I just wanted to just offer an observation to sit to you on this really. You mentioned the big focus around continuous improvement and continuity of care really. But obviously the patient, while they're subject to your care and team care, the enhanced level of support. And it was just their journey when they leave us. And obviously quite a few afraid to subject to that fall risk and been able to articulate that really well. Just wonder if you had any further thoughts about perhaps supporting them so that they were more stable and able, perhaps through things like strength and balance in activity, just so we would see them again. And I just wondered, you know, what's next on your improvement plan in that respect, so that we don't see them again, to
Yeah.
enjoy a good quality of life and get on.
Yeah, so obviously that, you know, deconditioning now is such a big thing. So again, I think, you know, I have a team who, they spend their days with their patients in the days. They don't just sit there looking at them and watching and waiting for them, you know, they do things with them, activities, they'll mobilise with them, you know, we have an activity coordinator for the day, you know, we come in, we share her across so many walls. So there's lots of things going on, playing darts, all sorts of things. So, so yeah, you know, my focus is my patients and the well-being of my team as well.
I think that's really helpful to hear that, because obviously keeping patients mobile, obviously keeping them well with them, and really sort of blanket.
Bring Shirley out here and then she takes that for the last one. Yeah.
It was a very impressive presentation, but one of the things that struck me was you come across as a very caring and effective manager, and you're just so warm in how you speak about the team here. But I just wondered, the staff members that was affected, I'm assuming they got a lot of support from what you said, and they're okay.
I think she was very upset.
Yes.
So much so that actually I was on a day off and she felt she needed to call me to sort of apologise. And I was like, you know, you did everything, you were where you should be, you did everything for that lady. Yeah, but she did, she got a lot.
Thanks, Julie. Please know this isn't a question for you. So, two things I think that we've pulled out that I wouldn't mind following up with the team as we take forward our plans for next year. One is the theme of continuous improvement. I think, Karen, to your point about resetting the parameters of what good looks like when we've been improving, we have a tendency to set targets at national target level or similar. So I think when we start to set next year's ambitions and the year after, rather than set an IPR against the national targets, we should be taking a good understanding of where we'll go to this year and what our next year might be. So that's something I want to think about when we start presenting iterations of next year's plan. The second thing is this point, Adrian, you meant about what happens when a patient leaves our care and goes into another part of our system. And again, we've lost a little bit of something with Bay Health and Care Partners and the boundary change in that area. I know that Tabitha is linking strongly with the ICBC nurse and what we do around discharge support and those links in with social care. I know Scott's leading all systems flow and starting to look about how we deliver better pathways of care to urgent care. So again, as a board, I think increasingly going to start to take some responsibility for patients in the care of our system, not just in our care and not just in schools. And that will be a feature, I think, to start with our own journey. Two things I think for the board. Thank you.
Julie, please for another people more.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When you leave the room, Julie, please take it as you leave that the board is very supportive, particularly at the point of delegating responsibilities and authorities down to the local clinical level. It clearly works.
Yeah.
So, thank you and good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could invite you to stay if you
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Chair's report is the next item, 164. You'll see that several of the items there are being covered either in the chief executive report or agenda items. Happy to answer any questions. Happy to accept the chair's report. Thank you. Move on to the chief executive report.
Thanks, Chair. Well, thank you for a start. I just wanted to recognise that board. Phil Woodford, Director of Corporate Affairs, left the organisation in January for health requirement. You'll have seen the statements that both Phil and I put out, where it's important to put on record here formally. Our thanks to Phil for over a decade service actually in Morecambe Bay. One of the most hard-working, tenacious colleagues that I met with such high integrity and challenge. He will be a significant miss for us in the exec team and the board. So Phil leaves with our best wishes. I know we're going to sort out something with a bite to eat with Phil over the coming weeks, so I encourage colleagues if you can to join us and take a bite in the right way. I will now commence a review of that portfolio. Just to start to think about what we do with corporate affairs, communication assurance. So there's a piece of work I'll be leading personally over the next month or two, just to look at structures in that space. And then obviously if there's changes at the board need to be aware of, Chair, I can bring it to the board. So thank you again to colleagues. Another period of industrial action since we last met, with the junior doctors action over an extended period, closely following the Christmas break. I will give audits to the leadership teams and those colleagues who supported services over that period. But I can't say it's business as usual, and I can't say there's no impact because patients didn't get access to the care and treatment they would have wanted at that period. Whilst we minimise the numbers, one's too many for that reason. So we still have to recognise the pressure on our communities and colleagues who will then have to rebook, reschedule and manage the pressure over that period. I haven't got any further updates, Chair, on industrial action, but just to recognise there are a number of groups unions now seeking mandates for further action potentially in the future. We'll update the board having when that is known. I generally give my updates in that kind of three-sphere approach for a national, kind of local, and then trust level. So ordinarily at this, I'll be talking about the national guidance. We have a document about the coming year. Unusually, the national guidance documentation hasn't been released by NHS England as yet. That's generally because before Christmas, so we are over a month expected to be at this point on that guidance. What I've said to the teams and in the system is we will carry on building our plans for next year based on the board's ambitions, our continuous improvement journey, our risk profile, and we will be looking to sign off those plans at the March cycle of business before the 1st of April. If there are any guidance changes that mean we have to revisit swings of the debt freeze or the priorities, we will have to do that in November, but we're not waiting. I think it's important to take that step as a board and get our plans in place for the end of we have as a board ahead of the year starting. One of the national updates, the independent review into Greater Manchester Mental Health NHS Foundation Trust was released a few weeks ago. I've circulated that on a separate cover to the board, and I've asked predominantly Tabitha and Jane from a CPC and quality perspective to look at any learning in that report that we would want to take into our own improvements, Chair. It's included in the publications and policy part of this agenda, and the paper is also under that item for information. If we distill anything from that we need to do in our own improvements, it'll come through also insurance. And from an ICB a combination of programmes of work looking to secure our year-end delivery. Now we're in quarter 4, with probably 7 or 8 weeks left of delivery. Got some real focus on landing our financial targets that were re-agreed at the end of November. I'm doing all we can to hit things like our electric recovery, our performance targets, our quality targets. I think we are performing very well, particularly where we have instability with industrial action, but there is more to do. Colleagues will have heard me say this before, or is when I get switched, because there's a lot of focus on next year, and when the trajectories look okay, they can be a sensitive breathe out a little into next year this year, so you can lose it a little bit more. Or I can see from the executive team and the performance frameworks and the categories is real tenacity and focus on chasing down what we need to, and putting the right amount of time and attention to planning for next year. So I'm not highlighting after risk because I can see risk presenting, but we're stating that back to previously a very good delivery. Just in terms of the other elements of the ICB, we've had a meeting with the ICB leadership team. Colleagues will have seen the letter I circulated from the ICB about the 10% challenge, how far away we are as a system from managing within our budgets. I appreciate that that letter could have been interpreted as how to take 10% out next year, unequivocally and for the board minutes. That is not the intention, and we clarified that now with the ICB just after Christmas. The challenge is how do we manage that gap of 10% over a 3 year. We will respond to that challenge as well. Planning process to ask the right questions, seek the right assurance on delivery around that, and contribute to any planning that we move forward to address that risk. When we're talking the scale of that level of challenge, two things are clear for me. We are going to be entering into a period of significant transformational change, so we'll consider whether we've got the right connections in place here to do that. And the second for me is it's going to come with some really difficult decisions, particularly around clinical services configuration. And I've asked the executive team to start to think about what next year after under our clinical strategy will look like. That's the challenge. We are expecting this month the commissioning intentions letters from the ICB to support providers on farming in that way. So we want to attend the strategy delivering our consideration delivery of those commissioning intentions. That is likely to come up through all amendments or proceeds. Provide a collaborative. I won't cover up too many of the items that are already on the agenda. But again, unsurprisingly, dovetailing with that national and ICB piece on financial improvements, but also that clinical quality and service improvement. And our 3 key programs of work, which the board regularly updated on, pathology collaborative network, with the start of the SC Central Services Transformation Programme, which allows the executive and the clinical configuration and collaboration, where Jane, the medical officer, is the engagement there. We will increasingly start to bring through some very detailed proposals now as those programs reach decision points into the board. I'm pleased to see that later on today we've got a 1 section with proposal for the when we go through that. From a trust perspective, I've reflected a little bit back, Chair, on where we are at Q4, which we'll pick up under the IPR. Some specifics. So we've had our maternity support programme visit on the 10th of January from the national team. Real privilege to both hear their feedback on their objective view of our improved return, but then to see our teams present, particularly Heather and Donna and Tamsin, the work see every month they report on our improvement. But when it's laid out in a 2-year journey, it's impressive the amount of work that's been done by that team. The MSSP are keen to recognise that. They're also recognizing transitional leadership now in our senior team for the reasons of the service. And what they've said is they want to come back in about 4 months' time, probably around April, May, just to check that all of that improvement has been sustained, has continued even through the transitional piece with the new leadership team, with an anticipation coming out of the programme based in Quebec. And then some really good events we've had in the last month around the opening of our new roles unit, the RLI and the oncology and hematology line, switching from comedy and a famous kind of individual who called Lancaster John Richardson, supported the urology unit. For those of you who were wondering whether our new chief nurse is Amber Shai, you might have seen the headlines on the front pages of local press with her arm around John Richardson, so with the board. And then most of it wonderful for the ultimate the oncology and hematology unit. So I'm going to share update on that.
Any questions from the Chief Executive? I slide in the agenda. Tony?
Yeah, it's one comment, Chair. I've been here about nearly a year and I know it's flown by. And I have to say, pardon? I know, I'm sorry. I apologise. That's why I apologise now because, I'm not really apologise, but, and as Neds, you're there to scrutinise, to challenge, to support. And sometimes, you know, you feel you're drilling into things, but I have to, again, on behalf of myself as a Ned, the year in, to say thank you. And on this time, particularly focus on the executive team and the leadership. Because when you read that report out and knowing what we've been through and all the exciting things that are going on, knowing that's what I feel an exemplar of what good looks like and the work that you're doing as a team, particularly around the ICB at the minute, which we know is not easy. I think it's important that we to say thank you really, because yeah, there will be conversations and there will be some tough times where we challenge and talk about stuff. But I do want to put my foot personally to say thank you because I think the team, Chair, I think there's some brilliant leadership when you look at the broader trend across the region and beyond. So thank you. That's it.
Look around a minute after the role in non-exec directors and the council government as well.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments on the chief executive board? We happy to accept it?
Well,
Sorry.
just following on that theme, I was just wondering if we can expect in the future some quotes from Oprah Winfrey in the. Well, I've never seen a quote from Oprah Winfrey in a full paper either.
We know that, and move on. The head governor's report, colleagues. 166, Julia. Take this down. Any questions for the head governor? No. Thank you, Julia. We accept the paper. 167, Care Quality Commission report and update. Chief Nursing Officer, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a reminder, the CPC inspected our midterm RLI. Maternity reported BHP RLI in April 2023. And following that, they undertook an assessment of our wellness in May 2023. So we had a factual accuracy process and then we received the final positive report for 2024. So this report here today is just to provide an update on the recommendations and the action following the findings of the inspection. So after the inspection, we had 10 recommendations, 11 should do. And underpinning the recommendations is 55 actions that we need to sort of look at. So we have supported the new know that all the vaccines and the transport quality assurance committee, we can update as a meeting. So there's two things just that you need to just like note. I'm not going to go through it and I'm going to go through it. Correct, okay? It's just current progress for the implementation of the improvement plan and update on the change to CPC. Also make a note, there's some actions that have been got timelines and I'll put that up with the team and make sure that we have faith as to when we are actually going to achieve those actions. The reason why there's no data attached to the well-led action in this report is because we've not received sufficient evidence to actually either complain or say we can complete and with much or also. However, we are looking at the team are actually doing that for that speed. And we get some of the evidence that we need to say we've done the action by Friday. So apologies for those actions that we haven't got like a timeline. So I'll take it.
Run to my question. I'll open your colleague. Any questions? Karen?
Thank you, and thanks, Tabitha. And it's completed this question. It will also be responded to with the I said we talked about. And this is a detailed thing, so apologies that you're running to have to. But it's in one appendix, for example, the pharmacy strategy is referred to as complete, and then in another appendix, it's described as in progress.
And I was just wondering if there was just almost a data refresh in terms of pulling an awful lot of evidence together into a kind of a single consolidated position.
I think that is a matter of,
I think
it's
it's just
Angela even, what we call it, board position, so I'm sure she's.
okay. And a similar one around, it was around maternity, and I know there's been a huge amount of data and evidence around CMT, and it's just whether that's right. It's a triangulation of the data details. But I think if that can be consolidated, then we feel even more confident in the position. But I recognise it's really tricky.
And this is just a really so great to hear that the program the same by the end of the week will be able to when the what the timelines are. But that's great to hear really can be about complete action and just to ensure that they are monitored for compliance going forward. Whether we ought to just report them that status is complete but ongoing monitoring or something like that. Because otherwise it's not fun to just on a singular test that we've actually met that criteria where we need ongoing monitoring, need security.
We'll make a note of physical. Quick one for me, could we then bring this back in our next board, Naples, sorry, with an update? We've got, being nearly a year then, since the last effect. Just want some assurance really from the board that we don't just have a tick back. We've got the must do and should do. Here it is to the board, we've done it, and then we just stop. If we come back in April and say where we up to the must do and should do, and how we then build that as a basis for continuous improvement in that business. Any other points? No, we're happy to accept the themes to update Facebook. That's a thank you. We're still on. Exciting. Great. I think I saw you coming in there on with us. Yeah, so welcome. Chief Nursing Officer Director Ms. Wicker, over to you. You probably want to say something about the length of the pay first. And then before I take questions, I will ask the Chair of Quality as well if they have any comments.
I'm sure everybody is looking at about 200 cases. So I am going to ask Donna to provide an update for the continual monitoring facility which is required under the open recommendations of the national requirement for maternity. But I'll also ask Donna to be quite brief and just highlight what was linked to now and where we have it and where was need assurance. Over to you, Donna.
Thank you very much, Tabitha. I would just highlight to the board, apologies, the communication back, it's very fragmented what's coming through. I don't know if it's where the speaker is, so I only picked up some of that. So I'll try as we go through. If I've not captured, please could you just ask the question again? So an update on our maternity update report in relation to since the last month has identified that in our perinatal quality surveillance model, we are starting to see a theme triangulating coming through in relation to patient feedback about our bereavement suite at the Royal Lancaster. And just to refresh, the Royal Lancaster bereavement suite was taken out of action last year following identification of safety concerns that were highlighted, such as no medical piped gases within the room. And when we undertook a skills drill, it did identify that we could not get bed and equipment within an emergency situation quick enough. This was deemed a safety issue, and we put this on our risk register, and this was highlighted in our CQC report as well. We put some immediate mitigations in within maternity services where we do offer women to go to South Lakes Birth Centre for a bereavement suite. However, there is a small minority of women that do not receive this, and this is because if they are clinically unwell, we cannot transfer them to South Lakes Birth Centre. So there's a small minority of women who will receive care on the labour ward, and we will, of course, look after them in the most sensitive way possible. We just highlight that because of the theme coming through that we are seeing. And what I'd also like to advise the board is the ladies that are being cared for on the labour ward highlights the very reason why we did take that room out of action, because it's appropriate when they're that poorly that they should be on a labour ward, and where the bereavement suite is situated is not ideal. So I'd just like to update from a capital build perspective. It is on the trust capital plan for 2025, and it is one of our CQC actions as well that you would have seen within the pack. We also had our maternity safety support programme visit, and the visit took place on the 10th of January, and the stakeholder agreement was that we would remain in the sustainability phase of the programme for another 4 months. It was highlighted at that meeting that we have met the requirements of what we'd need to do to exit the programme, but because of the just changes within the leadership that were taking place at the time that we were looking at this review and reset visit, a decision was made just to review this in 4 months' time to see if the sustainability around that leadership structure was in place. In relation to our CNST, we presented the evidence here at private board at the beginning of January, and the ICB have also from the LMNS undertaken their assurance piece of work. We have now submitted the board declaration form to the maternity incentive scheme by the deadline for achieving a full 10 out of 10. So we should be hearing from them. The normal procedure is around April. I would just like to also highlight from the maternity update report, working with a surgical care group, we identified a safety issue that was a risk for women and babies around second on-call theatre teams out of hours, and our surgical care group have worked with us to facilitate an on-call team on site that will support to ensure that if a second theatre needed to be open, we do have the staff facility there to provide that going forward. Within the pack, we also have the maternity attain and transitional care update report. The attain report is a requirement of the maternity incentive scheme to come to board on a quarterly basis, and the report has the continued action plan we've presented here before. So just to provide an overview and update on the progress of that, we have moved forward with our transitional care action plan, and the nursery nurse jobs are now out on track, and we're working with the universities in the programme of development to support for the staff when they're in post around transitional care services, and we are looking at having those people in post by April. In relation to the avoiding term admissions, within this report in the quarter we did see an increase in fairness in relation to term admissions. I would like to advise the board in already looking at Q2, I can reassure you that those term admissions have decreased. We do see a theme around babies being separated from mothers for cannulation and also around thermoregulation, but we've undertook a specific piece of work at South Lakes Birth Centre working on increasing the temperatures to the optimum room temperature, and that's what we've already attributed has seen our decrease in our term admissions for hypothermia. The third paper in the pack just is an update report relating to the confidential inquiries into maternal deaths and the position regarding the recommendation. So in the most recent confidential inquiry into maternal deaths, there was no local recommendations. So we have done a refresh of the 9th confidential inquiry, and we are pleased to report and assure the board we are compliant with all the recommendations that are for the trust, and the only partial compliant one relates to the maternal medicine network, which sits within the region, who are responsible for over implementing that. So we do have a maternal medicine network. It's in its infancy and its development in moving forward, which is why it's partially compliant. But as a trust, we have assurance we have embedded the other actions. I'm not sure if that captured the questions, Tabitha, because it's hard to hear at this end.
I hope you can hear me. I just wanted to say thank you so much and to the whole maternity team. And I forgot to say we welcome Sue Stansfield as well, who is our director of midwifery. But unfortunately, she's not managed to make it today. She's on PTSD training. And Donna agreed to support us. And I'm really grateful, Donna. Thank you. And well done for all the hard work.
Thank you.
For 10 questions from board members, I'll just check with our chair of quality regarding both the Attain report and the MD Grace report. Is there anything you wish to escalate at all?
Nothing specific.
Great, thank you. I'll just start with a quick question from me and then I'll well, they'll be coming back in 4 months regarding the national programme, as you say. They've said that because we're now reinforcing our leadership team. Is the assumption then that our leaders will be in place within that 4-month period?
I can answer that one, Donna, if that's okay.
Yes, please, Tabitha.
Yeah. The assumption is that we will have a director of midwifery who is now in place. The 2 heads of midwifery, we've got one, who's going to start this month, February, because she's coming from East Lancs and they need to just do a handover process before they can second it to support us for the next 12 months. The second midwifery post is already out there and we have been positive responses. John Idea was part of the governance team. Thank you. And John's term was 6 term until June. We've extended that for 18 months and she's going to have a deputy governance lead. So we are confident that that leadership will be embedded within the 4 months.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'll open it up. So Adrian and Karen.
Thank you for the report on it and great progress, continued progress. That's the main thing. So thank you very much to the whole team there for their work and their leadership. My question on reading the pack, really, or my comment, is really about the level of inequality that we see in some of this data. And I'm going to pick on smoking, actually. I don't know if people have had a chance to look at detail. Pages 127, 169 highlight the levels of where we are now. Half the levels of smoking we have in Morecambe and obviously over in Barrow. And it's very difficult for us at board members to understand what the average is within our region and national, but that feels high to read that over our ROI. We've got 13.1 to 13.7. Smoking. So that feels like health inequality. And obviously ties back to the IPV priority around national priority around core 5 was 20. Obviously, and earlier on, Aaron was quite right. This is an issue, isn't it? We've got the director of public health with us, but smoking is a public health issue and a primary care issue. And it's really about impacting health in us in terms of those numbers, isn't it? The added complications that we get as a trust and supporting others children who are being born. We can see clearly there's something going on. We definitely need to do some deep dive on some kind of partnership work to start to address some of those numbers.
We will take that into the sort of going to be directly in place as well.
I just it's an observation about health policy, which I don't really know anything to forward.
Yeah, thank you. Karen?
Thank you, and thanks, Donna. I just wanted to highlight particularly, and for the record, how fantastic it is to see the useful data now fitting alongside the maternal focus. That focus has been around neonates. It's really helpful for us to see that, and particularly the introduction of T-charts, so that we can really understand when we work with very small numbers. But I just particularly wanted to put on record a thank you to Donna, particularly for getting that data right, because I know it's been a challenge, but also to those BI colleagues, because we don't often hear about the BI colleagues at board. And having met and worked with some of them with maternity in mind, it's just really impressive how well they understand the data and how well they understand what that means for patients. So I just really wanted to highlight that. And then just with the confidential inquiry, fantastic. We're about the level of compliance with the 9th one. But as a forward look, when will we start to understand the assurance around our compliance with the 10th one? I know it's been only recently published and there's a lag in that process, but when can we expect to see our compliance with that recently published?
Did you hear that, Donna?
I did hear those questions. I'm happy to respond, starting with the first. Just picking up, going back to the smoking. So, as part of Saving Babies' Lives, element 1, which we undertake our reviews and monitoring on a quarterly basis, element 1 relates completely to the smoking pathway. So I appreciate the wider public health picture, but from a maternity aspect, I would like to advise the board that we have a national pathway we have to follow, and we have to monitor that quarterly. So from a deep dive perspective, we understand on a quarterly basis the amount of women who book who smoke, who we then have a pathway around them being referred to the smoking cessation service, the uptake of women who choose to do that, the follow-up rate, and the nicotine replacement uptake. So we do have a pathway we have to monitor on a quarterly basis, and that is part of Safety Action 1 for our CNST. So we do have very close understanding of any pathway we could improve around that. The second one in relation to our, just picking up on Karen's point, to do with the T-charts and the neonatal charts we've added in, I'd just like to advise the board that our dashboard is being used by Samantha Riley and the team and seen as an exemplar for maternity services on how you start looking at data, that moving away from RAG rating dashboards that historically maternity services are using in order to find assurance. And your question, Karen, in relation to Embrace, the 10th confidential inquiry relates to national recommendations only. There are no local recommendations, and the reason why that is in the confidential inquiry they've acknowledged that they need to go back, take a reset to understand at a national level why we keep seeing the same repeated issues nationally. So the recommendations are for NHS England and the Royal Colleges in order to underlook at guidance more that can be filtered down to the system of how we can improve.
I really want to come back.
That's really, really helpful, Donna. And I guess back to the previous point today about ongoing CQC compliance and continual improvement, then potentially that's something to think about as well with our compliance with then the 9th confidential inquiry. It's great to be in compliance now, but actually you need to know that we maintain that compliance, and it would be good to see that reported.
Thank you. I've got Jellivan. Chris, do you find up for a question or to respond?
The question and a comment from the
So I'll bring Jellivan in, then I'll bring you in, and then I'll bring Alison.
Yeah, no, my question has already been
Great.
so around the smoking, because the chat is quite dark.
Great. Thank you. Chris,
I've been just reflecting on Karen's and absolutely agree with all the points about the data, the methodology that's too helpful. The one thing is that what we found, we rolled out the methodology more widely, to the extent to which good sustained programme of work on developing the narrative was important to complement it. And obviously my eye was immediately drawn to where there was special cause variation, which of course was concerned a bit before I picked up on the deflections piece. And then I tried to triangulate the narrative within the report to the identification issue. So it was just a question really, because I couldn't see that narrative, whether one, we're still in the process of developing a narrative that would inform. It could be that the maternal dashboard just needs a more comprehensive executive summary. Just I just wanted to make sure that we finish the job with that dashboard.
I agree, Chris, thank you very much. But one piece of work that I'm undertaking with BI and journalism is to also bring the maternity performance dashboard into the idea. So we are already looking into that, and I think that will help us, of course, to get the narrative within the SPR track, I think, in mind for our IQ. Because at the moment, the dashboard is separate. Each council is separate. So
Just remind colleagues, because obviously folks speak in the expertise of this area, public meetings, so just recordings, etc. Those all listening in, if we could just explain the acronyms or use more words at least the first time. That whole chair. Okay. Alison.
Thank you. My comments through them said, and just with a few points. So breastfeeding rates, it's around page 120 odd. Just trying to understand, if we understand the reasons why people are stopping breastfeeding, and then what are we doing about it to try and sustain breastfeeding? There's a really big drop off of 5 days. Is that because mums don't stay in very long anymore, therefore that one-to-one care? I don't know, and I don't expect you, Donna, to be able to give me all the answers now. It's just posing some of the questions. Really pleased to see that 3rd and 4th degree tears are an outlet. That's fantastic and well done, but do we understand what's changed? That, you know, how did we get there? Yes. At RLI, the venous thromboembolism rates have improved significantly, and we've got over, and it builds on the data, we've got over 9 data points above the mean. So do we need some of the rebasing so we know where we are? And then just finally, I was in the Embrace report, the return to theatre for mums that had a section, the cesarean section, saying not only a performance metric, because sometimes it's totally justified that people need to go back to theatre. I appreciate that, but I was just slightly nervous that we don't just have it as an accepted complication of having a cesarean section, that somebody may go back to theatre. That yes, don't use it as a performance metric to capture that data. Yeah, we don't want to normalise it, and try and understand that if someone has had a big internal bleed that requires going back to theatre, that we understand why that happened.
Taking those, but rather having a response now.
Yeah, I'm not expecting.
They're all good indicators of the sort of
Yeah.
things that we'll be looking at when we go and see the staff and visit the areas that we just help to take away and talk them on. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, thank you.
All good, really good. 2 hands raised on email. Let's hear you. I can't speak. Exactly. Over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to advise Donna and colleagues that these pathways, whilst they are within the hospital pathways, they do interface with the wider community services pathways. And, you know, I'm quite happy to advise Donna and others to follow up to ensure the wider system changes that are happening, certainly in infant feeding, breastfeeding and smoking cessation for pregnant mums. There's an opportunity to even, you know, join up even better. And I can follow it up with you, Donna, outside the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary, as always. Any other points? No hands up on the, just before I bring you in, Aaron. I think we're all saying the same thing about the data and whether we need to readjust them to sort of make them more contemporary so we know where we are. But equally, the data there about compliance with CPD, you get this report every month, and each month it says that our medical colleagues are nearly compliant with it. When will we get to the point that we don't need that nearly, but actually they have completed their compliance?
Just to answer that, Chair, I think there are two aspects for that. One is you're talking about actually linked to appraisal as well, medical appraisal. So medical appraisal happens in a different phase, and because we are all doing it different months. So how we collect that data, which actually every time when you're reporting that, it may not reflect exactly because people are doing appraisals as well as their mandate training at different phases. Precisely tell or show a trajectory how we are going to annually do that. Because people will be doing their mandatory training because that is very essential for their appraisal, and without appraisal they can't revalidate. So if you look into our appraisal data, it is 95, more than 95%, and we are annually reporting to the NHS England. So that indicates they're actually doing their mandatory training, but we are not capturing it.
That's probably related to again the point that colleagues have made. We just need to look at how we present the data so they capture the reality of that. We don't spoil, we don't start chasing someone that is actually. Thank you for that. Last word on this.
Only 2 brief points. I want to thank you. Don, you missed my CEO report at the start of the meeting where I updated and I was saying thank you and the team for all the work that you've done. It's a privilege to see some of that kind of play out and the impact that it's having on users of the service in particular. 2 quick ones. One, some board reassurance, Chair, for now. I received the National CQC Maternity Survey results embargo yesterday, so I can't give any detail or circulate the report until it's published on Friday. But just to let the board know that we have been identified as being in the better than expected category on the survey results, so that adds, I think, some reassurance to the assurance reports seen today. The other then is just the feedback on the bereavement suite at RLI in a 2025 completion date. I am aware that we have a massively oversubscribed capital programme and good multidisciplinary colleagues look at a risk-based approach to how we prioritise. The board will see that come through its planning through February and March. So I'm assuming it's gone through the due process in 2025 based on risk is where we deployed the resource to resolve the bereavement suite issue. But would ask colleagues to make sure that we have a look at that for the appropriate check and challenge if we refine the programme for next year.
Thank you. Donna, thank you very much for the report and the briefing and the updates as always. Thank you, Chief Nurse. Colleagues, are we happy to accept the report for assurance purposes? Yeah, thank you. Then I'll move us on then. And I'll now move us on to item 1691, Integrated Performance Dashboard, Deputy Chief Exec.
Thank you, Chair. I'm taking the view, colleagues, unless told otherwise, that the executive summary provides a good introduction to the key issue, but I won't repeat all of that, Chair, and suggest we go straight into the individual sections in the normal way. So order they conduct the great quality and safety then, so I'll hand over to Chief Nurse and the Deputy's Chief Medical Officer.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. So in terms of monitoring the state justification, we're still reporting through the criteria side, and I think Mike will say. So, because we are now from October last year, we are now under GFEC, which is also patient safety reporting framework. And we've had like local international priority. And that's the methodology we're using. I'm just outlining that we're moving away from the previous incident reporting methodology into the new PSET methodology, which encourages engagement and communication, patients and services around how we sort of deal with our incidents. We had no never event that has been reported this reporting period. And in terms of complaints, I am very pleased with stage board. We only have 1 6-month left, which is remaining open. And this has been delayed due to mutual agreement with family and talking to family. So we are now reporting 5-month plus cases, which is where we currently need to. And there's only 5 cases there. So it is a good sign in terms of our performance, how we engaging with families to respond to what they may see as not. Our falls, we've had 112 steep streets and falls over the reporting period, and 26 inpatients admitted with fall. We have a history of fragility. We were talking about all the people with dementia we had from Julia's presentation. However, we have had 2 kind of falls of people, same people falling over and over, which puts our numbers up. And I think the chair asked last time what we do with people who kind of have repeated fall. And that's some of the work we are looking at in our quality improvement process. How can we improve this? We are linking it with the non-meeting criteria to decide as well as they falling into a good condition. How do we make people keep more reliable? So we have had falls that have sort of no harm to our patients. That is assuring. Pressure ulcers, there's been 45 category 2 reported, no category 3 in November. However, on one of our wards at RLI, similar wards, we've had 2 episodes of red 3 and 4 reported. And I have personally really watched that ward to see what has been happening. It's a number of things, training, international nurses were still under supervision, skill mix, and a lot of things. And we are really sort of supporting that work to make sure that they have the right place, the right support for the new staff to ensure that we reduce the pressure out there. Moving on to family and friends test, we have actually improved on this target. We are now on 13%. The last we reported we were on 12%. It's because we now have people within which wards and ask for feedback and actually ask patients and families about our services and how they see what we are doing. So that's a really good move. So we are increasing our volunteers as well. We can engage and support families. Mixed sex accommodation breaches. We do have these where there is delayed transference from a surgical unit to a medical unit. So we had 23 breaches in the reporting period. 3 breaches were in acute stroke at FDH. The one indicator that we've not reported on a lot is infection prevention. And we've seen quite a few infections around CGI with 8 cases at FDH. We are currently above the threshold that we want to be, but we are lower than where we were last year. We are now 2024 now, where we were in 2020, which is way back. We have also seen an increase in gram negative over the last month, in particular E. coli. So a thematic review being undertaken to make sure we are not an outlier within that. Something that's not been put on here is that we've seen an increase in COVID and flu around infection control, and we follow the guidelines in terms of use of our PPE and cohorting our patients and making sure we keep our patients safe. And we've also seen an increase nationally for measles. So here, so I'm just reporting it under the infection prevention control, so what you did aware. So we are following national guidelines. We have got, we are prepared at our front door and in our pediatric units to make sure that where there is measles identified or signs and symptoms, the responses to that. You want me to talk about this?
I can bring that modality and.
So I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. So if you look at the thromboembolic assessment, I think in relation to that, definitely we are not in the place where we want to be. If you look into the numbers, 88% against 95%. It's not only just numbers, it's actually in relation to the risk for the patients if you don't assess in terms of VTE. So we've got a medical VTE lead in place for the last 6 months who's closely working with our clinical teams. And there are something we identified in terms, especially when you're doing the assessment, there is some ambiguity in terms of local daycare cases. So we actually taken that ambiguity out. Now everybody will get an assessment for VTE. So I think that may bring that number slightly higher. And also there are some clinical areas where good practice reaches 95 to 100% of things. So learning that from those areas as well will be very useful. And basically, so maybe applying some quality improvement methodologies to learn lessons from those areas. So we hopefully should see some improvement in that aspect. And in terms of mortality, I'm referring to the slide 19, page 235. So mortality, as you know, it's been usually assessed by summary hospital level mortality indicator. So what is called as CMI. So in mortality overall, it's reduced, and it is actually lower than our peer group. Don't want to hear increase. So and overall other trusts as well. So it's good for us to demonstrate that we are consistently lower than 100. So and it's not only celebration, but we have to keep an eye on those things, and it will be regularly monitored through our mortality and post learning death group. So
I'll just add, thank you very much for in terms of VTE, because it remains kind of low, what we've done now is that all exclusion has been removed, prevent confusion in terms of how we propose, and there is an improvement program that's going to happen, where we're now trying to push NEPI to propose medical team to improve our VTE assessments and intervention. So there will be, we are hoping with the use of the methods to be an assessment for those in lower need, they came surgery, they will come home, the next leg will help us to move us forward.
Can I follow that? I think that's right, because there is we rejig the pre-assessment form as well to make it easier, so that nurses have a clear idea. Patient is not necessarily won't be going to theatre, so that's another safety thing forward, so that patients are actually obliged to do it, even though they're fortunate.
We'll take questions at the end of everybody's talk, but just a reminder, really, it's not a question that the board will expect some changes therefore in the data through this section of the agenda, but also in the actual planning, some timelines. When do we expect to see that?
People section next. Chair.
Thank you. So I think positive story really for the people domain, and with the majority of the indicators being stable, positive in terms of the common cause variation, and both have positive assurance around the achievement of set targets. The exception really being appraisal, and whilst we're seeing the rate of appraisal compliance improve, I think one of the things that's come out from the constructive performance review would be how challenging it is with the short periods of time the cascade approach that we use, that a significant number of colleagues require their appraisal to be kind of condensed into to be compliant. So there's discussions now about how we could feasibly spread that throughout the year to make that more manageable, and that will be taken through the educational learning programme or the support of people
But I think the other bit here is that even in the areas where we have got consistent passes and we've got that positive delivery assurance, we are continuing to look at the improvements. So two areas that I really want to just highlight. So one's around the vacancy rate. Whilst we still have hotspot areas, we've had particular improvements around consultant vacancies where we've had a 6% reduction in the consultant vacancy rate over the last 12 months. And I think primarily behind that is given the practice that's happening now from the medical HR team, led by Derek Thomas. And so we're seeing the benefit there in terms of temporary bed reduction and also vacancy reductions, but really also while we have hotspots, particularly around our SAS doctor vacancies, so it's wanting to progress our locally employed doctors plan that will really have a fantastic impact for that group of professionals as well. On a positive, we have the ICP and Chief People Officer to attend our vacancy control panel yesterday, and with some really positive feedback about the robustness and slickness of the approach that we're taking, and some learning that can be shared across the patch there. And the final one I want to just recognise is the core skills. So there's been some significant work that's been done with our doctor training and working collaboratively with lead employers. And you'll see from this in the executive summary the improvement that we've had in compliance rates for our doctor training. And it's a notable area across the northwest, and obviously kind of working collaboratively with the lead employers.
Thank you. So final section, Chair. The position just to remind them, price year end forecast is 11.5 million and adverse position to our original plan. It's useful perhaps to remind the board an explanation of that adverse position being driven significantly by the fact that we have been unable to fully meet the requirements of this additional stretch financial target from financial year. Not to say that there are ups and downs in the position that was set out in the report. It is worth reflecting on other aspects of the integrated performance report when we consider the financial position. For example, 65 weeks in RTT performance has helped to drive recovery of additional income in our plan. We reviewed the income that we recovered for active performance and the direct cost of delivery twice, and have demonstrated that the trust makes a positive contribution on this work, and therefore we are enhancing our documentation as a result. Pockets of pay expenditure pressure remain materially impacted by the scale of the challenge relating to the costs of our outlier status in respect of numbers of patients who do not meet the medical criteria to reside. But I in the next report we expect to close the residual gap to the recurrent savings target. That will be a very significant achievement, Chair, in the context of 30 million target and 45% of our organisation's turnover. The report also refers to risks in the year-end forecast. I think it's again important to note that the forecast we presented wasn't one that we could easily achieve. It required us to continue driving the improvements that we've seen in recent years. I've previously advised our forecast is supported by specific risk mitigating activity, including executive-led programs of work, which are reviewed weekly through the executive team meeting. Also important to note this risk is all to note this risk, but also that the management mitigation is an ongoing process. And at this stage, since the time of reports, we've quantified specific financial mitigations of 1.6 million against that position that are now incorporated into our position. We continue to be exposed to the risk, as I've previously noted, associated with the numbers of patients who do not meet the medical criteria to reside. Scott and I have secured support from IC colleague recently to carry out a full detailed review and deployment of resources across all aspects of our system, which relate to this long-standing issue. We believe this will really supplement the other work, notably the whole system. Additional work underway includes a structured approach to care group overspends and slippage on plans and forecasts, detailed approach to review and drive in respect of our already strong income recovery and agency control improvement processes. Just final notes, I'll be briefing the board in more detail this afternoon on the trust expenditure run rate at the end of the financial year. The work we're undertaking to establish the best possible start point for the next financial year is directly connected to, but not the same as, the year-end forecast. And whilst we're able to demonstrate a robust and structured response to both, and of course we've just heard some positive feedback from the people officer on one of the fundamental processes that have been adopted in driving that. It's important to understand that we have taken all possible appropriate steps to achieve our targets and triangular assurance that we can provide to the board and external stakeholders in this regard. So I will be seeking some third party and independent input and review to the work that we've done, just to ensure that we have exhausted all possibilities in pursuit of our objectives, and also to ensure that if there is any learning for us, that we capture and act. Chief people, sorry, not chief people officer.
So urgent care, firstly, the reporting month tells us that we are the 73% for our performance. As we briefed the board on the 3rd of January, that did improve a little in December, which was not entirely what we expected, but welcome. January has been a much tougher month for urgent care. As Timothy described, we saw a 6-fold increase in COVID and flu FGH and a 3-fold increase in RLI, and that compounded by significant issues of resilience in primary care. Have seen us see our emergency department attendances go into special cause concern, and therefore significant congestion in our emergency departments. So much so that we declared open for around 10 days ago. We stayed in that place for around 72 hours and then safely came out. That was a significant period of pressure, and obviously a significant period of pressure for staff working in those departments, and a level of patient experience that we wouldn't want in those departments. We're in a period of recovery now, although still volatile, and the primary care demand has not receded the COVID and flu has. It's worth noting in the pack that we're an aggregate of 2% ambulance handover within 30 minutes against 80% target, but that we're pretty consistently in funnels. And in fact, there is some incentivization around delivery of that target, so we'll be speaking to the national team around could we receive some of that incentivization from the funding side, given that they've achieved that, and that's not the case RLI. And then you see some relative progress in, a stress about relative in not being criteria to decide for that from a chronic baseline of 125 into a different chronic baseline of 100, which is better, but clearly more to do. I would pay tribute to our colleague from Westmoreland Wellness Council for that improvement, particularly during Open 4, where they made significant efforts to get those numbers down and to provide additional. And he moved to a place closer to home or at home than he would otherwise have been. In cancer, that's a very good story, where you see continued excellent performance in 2018. You see a short of the target in the reporting period for 31 days, given the improvements in dermatology over Q3, then you will see that as we speak, achieving the target, and we will hit the target in Q4. So 2 of the 3 big cancer targets, I believe, quite firmly over the line. And then patients over 62 days on the cancer PPL are an important target in special cause improvement. So I think there's a lot of progress in the cancer space. We can only buy progress in the elective access. So you see our continued outstanding diagnostic performance, with remaining in the top 10 in England in that space. 65 weeks. Emphasize it is to achieve 65 weeks in the current climate, with the including but not exclusively the industrial action. And the team deserve great plaudits for what they've done there. It will be to the wire, but we do retain a level of confidence that we'll achieve the year-end target of 0. We've got a risk of around 15 to 20 patients in trauma and orthopedics and orthodontics for that target, but a level of confidence around achieving 0 for that target, which would be so. And that gives us a really good shot at 52 weeks. So you'll see in the graph, I like most of them in the fact there are many, but the graph on page 270 is really important there. So I think that is the driver of a lot of the symptomatic targets. So that graph on 270 shows the plateauing and now the decreasing of waiting list size. That's important. That parts the trend that you might read in the lay media and political commentary around waiting list size. And see that plateau and reduce is a significant piece of work by the trust. The final domain is stroke. So you've seen the pack as previously, the SNAP scores for Scenario Live were on A and B respectively for validated data. Some trepidation because it's almost too good news, but the unvalidated data we locked in 48 hours ago for Q3 is that both sites will have achieved a SNAP A score, which would be absolutely fabulous. The dashboard is that we've got locally, and Karen might have contributed earlier to a BI team. One of the reasons we're in this we are with scope is the significant support of the BI team and the unvalidated data which we use live. And with a 2% margin of error, we've got a confidence, as I'm saying it now, that with validated data announced in 5 weeks that we'll retain that and achieve the fundamental score that are alive. You'll ask why. I think that's as the story referenced earlier. That's not through the quality improvement. It's not been a centralised programme or change in corporate support. It's been like good determined local operational and clinical leadership, and which still has a place in the NHS. So that's a great piece of work by that team, and something that is validated and will celebrate and far and wide means of to getting the best deal possible. For the usual caveat that SNAP and the only showing kind of scope, but it's certainly a very good policy measure and something we should be proud of.
That's what I got. Any comments, questions? Only John having them.
If I can, Chair, just 3 questions which kind of go through the whole pack. But again, a big thanks. Just on the people in the exec summary, I think it talks about occupational health and about, I think, maybe wrong word, significant increase. Is there anything else you can share in terms of, 1, the pattern behind that, and 2, why that's increased, and any mitigation you can provide us in terms of what we're doing about it?
Yeah, so there is one care group that accounts that has kind of at least double the amount of colleagues that all the other care groups who are supported through occupational health at the moment. That's been picked up in performance reviews with that care group, and we're doing some proactive work collectively with colleagues in that care group and the occupational health service and the legal to kind of get more proactive in to kind of help not kind of get into the need for the reactive elements as such a statement that we would expect, particularly around MSK issues and manual handling associated legal kind of concern. The physios in the service now are actively going into state facilities and doing some kind of preventative work with them around manual handling techniques, reminders of things, so that we can hopefully get again upstream with that. I guess I actually see it as quite a positive thing, though, that people are accessing the support and that we're able to be providing that support in such a timely way for colleagues. Because what you now see is stress and anxiety and MSK are 2 highest reasons for absence across the organisation. And when we look at the referrals that go into the occupational health service, those are the common themes that are there. And what we are now seeing, though, is a decrease in the MSK and stress-related absence levels, which is showing that we're able to keep, whilst we've got the support in place for colleagues, whilst we're either bringing them back into work sooner, because of the support that's available, or we're managing to help keep them in work as well, enough to be able to continue with their duties because of the support that's being put in.
Thank you, Alison. The second big one, and again, just so we've seen these in the finance committee, but the scorecards are great. They really, really help, and I think they'd love to see if these can be applied across. But in the spirit of not trying to be critical, but there are certain areas that in terms of that kind of cumulative weighted scorecard that are not doing as well, which are captured on 2, 4, 5. And then on 2, 4, 7, it talks about additional senior finance support offered to those care groups with the largest deficit will be provided. I suppose the question, Chris, is this has been going on for some time. That seems a trajectory when you look at the charts. That additionally report what mitigations will support will be offered and what confidence levels do we have in terms of assurance that that's going to start to see some impact over a period of time.
I think this is still, I know we've been producing this for a little while, but it's still quite new and innovative. What we produce these scorecards as a practice that we're sharing across the system. I think remember what the cumulative scorecards here, the detailed versions that go from performance review. I think one of the things that I've been looking for in terms of how these issues progress, because some of them are very long standing. So think about the estate variance control. So the context of very stretched financial plans. That's an obvious word in progress and progress through the planning process and the sign-off process. But I don't necessarily expect very rapid movements in the indicators. One of the key things for me, though, is the extent to which the care group engage in it, and that is very large and very positive. So I think what a reasonable challenge, of course, will be if some of these issues are not that or objectively tangible. There's a lot of soft intelligence that goes into the improvement agenda. Would be the challenge of where do we expect to be at different points in the next in the planning cycle, in particular the next financial year. So maybe that's a line that we can get through the finance.
Thank you. And Chair, final question was just on not meeting criteria to reside, which is I think on 260. I suppose I just want to unpack what reported and oversight of NMCTR work programme actually means in tangible products or delivery, because this is a real issue for the trust for the reasons we understand, both in terms of quality patient care as well as for the bottom line of the trust for the numbers, and they acknowledging they've gone down slightly since I think it's December, but obviously it continues to kind of flatline. And I suppose the bottom line is, what is the system? What does this mean in terms of change or action? And I'm just genuinely asking that question in good faith.
So I don't think it's flatly. I think certainly the data would say that come out special cause concern and common cause, and the fact that 126 would support that. But you're right, that's relative. So I'll say what I say every time, 20%. And as much as the trust can do for the small part that is in our locus of control, we are doing, and that to stand up to any test. And we can't make partners change the way they practice. We can escalate, or have done significantly, and we can continue to influence and nudge and ensure that the processes internally are as strong as we can be. I don't have anything else I can add to that. Chris makes a point, and we are trying to change that slightly in the certainly in the South Cumbria place, and rather than focus singularly on NMCTR or singularly on one of the pieces of resourcing that supports that, 10 or 11 tranches of money support discharge processes for plus core revenue. There's winter funding, there was some of the kind of legacy of Infracorp. There's Get Care Fund. And local authority similarly, there were 3, 4, 5 policies. So we're looking to a piece of work where we bring those together and look at the totality of the resources within the discharge and ask ourselves, should we be doing something bigger than different as opposed to the incremental landing? I don't believe the incremental change will land.
Yes. So we have had a number of conversations at this board about the levels of risk, financial and quality and safety that the levels of non-meet criteria to reside numbers manifest with us. And we have over the last 6 months escalated and have difficult conversations with partners and ICB leadership to try and get some traction on improvement here. I think it's good to see, particularly Westmoreland Furnace Council, when the call came, there was a material contribution to support the before, and you can see some of that building, like you say, there's a reduction that we've seen over time. We need to make sure that when we are planning for next year, we are really cognizant of these risks and issues, and that the system is also understanding its role in supporting the plans that we put forward. So we have 2 actions, Chair, to update on that will feature in our delivery plan for next year. One has come through the basis of our improvement and assurance group, which is the replacement structure for the system improvement board. And that's the oversight committee of the ICB chair as part of our Springs to oversight journey. And James Cattergood, one of our local place directors, has been tasked with a report to come back to the next year on what is oft quoted as art of the possible. So what is it that we could do as a system if we ignore, and I'll say this in the spirit that it's meant, budgets and red lines and frameworks for what is required to allow us to get to the national target, roughly at 5%. And the other action that we've agreed as part of the system intention meeting we had with the system is when we're looking to put our financial plans together for 24-25, we are looking to build in the assumption of a 5% achieved target. So those actions in our delivery plan, each report under the conversation we have here, and we'll also feature on the check and challenge at ICB region. So we're seeking to try and get connection on the respective actions needed in individual partners and using a couple of other platforms to try and get there. It is incredibly frustrating, and from my perspective, I think the performance and assurance frameworks that the AICB have at their disposal should be used more effectively over this period. I think support and further delivery.
Just to say, I'm fully supportive of Scott and the team, and understand the complexities. And I'm reassured by Alan's comments there. It's given the scale of change that we have and the scale of financial challenge. And Westmoreland is a good example of something being done which helps, but it's kind of a bit of the history of interventions that kind of when things get really tough. It's not about the trust, what that big transformative piece of activity or re-engineering is to create the conditions for something to happen. And that's it is my frustration. The question genuinely to support the trust board because it's a real challenge and I can see that. And it has improved, but it does continue to flow at a certain point, and it's costing both in terms of quality and finance as we want.
I think that point's well made. Tell me about how well structured the system is to bring partners together under that different transformational framework where you've got cross-partner responsibilities. Something we need to improve. It's something as a provider collaborative talking to the ICB about. The board is going to have a couple of sessions through February, March around our risk appetite and the areas of, I guess, concern, risks and opportunities that we have and what our position as a board is likely to be. So if I use this as a live example, we currently deploy resources from UHMBT into our discharge to assess hospital home care infrastructure to the tune of £45 million a year. You could argue that is replicating or swapping out expenditure that should be deployed elsewhere by other partners to support that particular service. We know that not meeting criteria to reside with the numbers of patients we have in our capacity at the moment adds up to maybe 2 to 3 wards in terms of capacity. We know that somewhere between £7-8 million worth of expenditure to in one area of the business, and I'm using it as a really reductionist narrative here around the financial. You could look at a £7 to £10 million cost for this trust in that area alone. Now, when we talk about our underlying deficit and our run rate into next year, where we're going to be talking in the order of £20 to £30 million, it could be 50 to 30% of our issues resolved with a different strategy of transformation in this space. So the board are going to be asked to consider these kinds of issues when we think about our positioning for the plan next year. That's not me positioning to come out of this group to stop service patients. but there has to be a more considered conversation here about risk appetite, positioning the system, and what we're putting our plans going forward.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, colleagues, we are drifting away from the agenda item 1691, which is the IPR report. So important issues these, but they are really straying into next year's planning, next year's budget, and also our strategy and our relationships with the ICB. So if I could just ask colleagues, concentrate the questions on the IPR report for assurance purposes. And also I'm going to give it along a bit because I'm conscious of time. With several agenda items to go through before break, so I want to get to a break at some point. So I'm just going to say to you, please, be disciplined, concentrate your question on this report. Galvani?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chris, thank you and the colleagues for the report. It's not a question because for the discipline that you have just mentioned. So it was good to meet some of the fairness teams and the work that they do, and to meet some of the new colleagues there. But just to ask a question in terms of the experience of those new colleagues, especially accommodation around that area, in terms of what we're doing when actually, especially international recruits, who might actually be struggling to find someone to stay. I think we need. It's a comment that maybe we need to look at. I don't think it needs a response right now, unless if you have one.
But I won't allow a response to that, so I will take it outside the board, because that's the discussion that you can have around how we support our recruitment. If you need to then bring in the board, we'll revisit it. I just want to concentrate on this bit, but thanks, John, that good point. And I'll leave you and I'll take that on Saturday. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to just make two comments on whether it may late, I think they run them here in the Chair's report. PTE, we are following that up at in some detail, so just refer to the board. That is under scrutiny. Mortality. I want came up at quality that is in the text, but it says that for the first time in many report data and the summary of mortality indexes and what seen as both important for now, the two measures. The first time in many years we are not alerting on a condition within that data. So I think that's really important. We know that. And also the fact that the mortality dashboard and the work that the mortality team has done has been recognised nationally. Went to a national conference and presented at that recently, and we're more basically just highlighting at that conference. So I think we need to celebrate and acknowledge the work that Amika, especially the team, have done around that. I have one question, which is around the stroke day from Scott. I think we just want to celebrate again that both stroke units are looking at INDIGAT and ADEX in the next book. I did notice the stroke, this distinguished therapy figures alerting red, particularly. I think they were orange at red at in the comments. I'm trying to take it that that's improving. If we go with A at RLI, but there is a real national challenge, isn't there, around stroke speech and language therapy?
I think so you're right, that probably a chronic one and it will persist. I think the other domains are performing so well that the aggregate score comes up. So I think there's some early issues like these ones said it's a chronic issue that we're unlikely to resolve.
Right. Okay. That's really good news about the work of the rest of the data. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So a broader question and a very, very specific one. The broader one is about the APR, but also reflecting back on Appendix 3 of the CQC report about the well-led element, was something about not all leaders discussing or bringing to like really good examples about community services. I mean, look at the IPR. I know we have care group reports and excellent care group people from Quality Committee definitely and other committees too. But the nature of the indicators and targets in the IPR, it is difficult to see. Difficult, and I mean, that's really committed, and just really with the future in mind, with well-being, with preventative care, with keeping it more effectively. It's kind of how do we address that going forward? Not per se.
Ask for a response there, but
Yeah.
I'll take that to the point of the execs to take away is an important one, third of the trust.
Absolutely.
Person. Got it.
And the very specific question was built on you, and as an ex-speech and language therapist and living I understand absolutely understand the national shortages, but this is really an assurance question. Is given that speech and language therapists in stroke services would primarily be involved in assessing people's safe swallow and making sure that they actually aren't inhaling food they should be digesting. How are we mitigating that risk if we don't have the speech and language therapy workforce we need?
Like to talk to that.
Thanks, Karen. Very difficult to answer the reason. I'm not sure if, but we are working with the system to see how we can recruit and train working with our students as well. So we have that as one of our. I don't have an answer for it now, but just to say we are working with the system to see how we can support each other with those roles.
And without getting operational about it, I'm just wondering about the potential for training other members of the team to actually, I would say, well, ex-speech and language therapy colleagues might shoot me down, but I would say that's not the only member of the team who could make a safe swallow event. So can we mitigate? But I don't, we can take our time.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And we are working with University of Cumbria as well in terms of growing that kind of workforce. We'll take it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. In the interest of time, I just want to two things. One is a comment for Chris, finance team, the operations team, and Scott with the winter planning that we had and how they've done know the financial challenges that we've got and some of the issues that have been mentioned as well. My specific question was regarding workforce on page 240 under the average time between vacancy crew offer letter. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the actions, in particular the medical workforce operations manager and them embedding and what we might see going forward. But more importantly, a little bit more clarity around the assurance comment where it says in response to feedback, diverse panel requirements have been paused. So just a little bit more understanding about what that means.
Should I pick the first elemental power side? They will get into lots of operational detail, but happy to share what the actually done. And we've had lots of concerns raised across the organisation through various, including at the partnership negotiating consultation committee from our staff science representative, and from the team talk that Aaron does through the team talk through direct contact with the end of the members of the team about the unintended consequences that required that there would be gender diversity and ethnicity diversity on the on all recruitment panels, and there were significant concerns that were raised, including the potential for discriminatory activities from an alternative perspective that were raised and well founded actually. So we took the decision and we discussed this at the People Committee workshop as well, to pause that requirement, but while we do a full review and to understand what we could put in place that would be more meaningful and more appropriate. And we'll also pick this up as part of the inclusion diversity work across Lancashire and South Cumbria so that we can all adopt the same practice. But we've really looked at as an interim measure whilst we put that pause in place, that at least one member of the interview panel must have completed the value-based recruitment training, and obviously have completed all their EDI mandatory training as well, their inclusion diversity mandatory training. So so we paused the kind of specific requirements whilst we were to take that forward review, but we put some mitigating actions in place whilst we complete that.
The colleagues, don't see any other hands up. We accept the IPR report. Thank you. I'll keep pushing us the time, colleagues. We're on 1692. There are a couple of items from the subcommittees that we all need to approve, so I'll bring our attention to those as we go through them. From the audit committee minutes, the chair, anything you wish to escalate to this board or any decisions they wish to this board to undertake, please.
Thank you, Chair. You can see the report there. The only thing I want to kind of just highlight is at 7, the committee was assured by the outcome of the MIA review of clinical audit effectiveness, which awarded this substantial assurance opinion, which is great. The rest of the content, I think, speaks for itself.
Colleagues, any questions? We're happy to accept that. Or thanks, Tony. Now, the standing financial instruction and scheme of delegation related to it. Report to seek approval of the trust standing financial instruction associated scheme of delegation. The SFIs have undertaken extensive review, simplification, with a more useful document that will be widely communicated and understood by all the staff. Being considered by the audit committee, and is all happy to approve that the document is distributed. Great, thank you. I'll move on then to people committee.
Thank you, Chair. So, just to highlight the positive impact in terms of the performance around people domain, which reports from the IPR. So, there's been some incredible work background to achieve that. I just wanted to flag out the focus on the issue attended by all colleagues. That certainly needs to be prioritised. Unfortunately, the key to turning down quite a lot of, turning around quite a lot of the issues that we've got as a trust, which doesn't appeal to teams to support that. And just finally, just to highlight to the main board that as a result of a number of improvements across the people domain, we reduced our risk profiles, our risk scores positively. So that's a useful discussion at the people committee, which is we reduced our risk profile and congratulations to the team all of it.
Colleague, council to accept the report. Ali?
Can I just note that we required board approval for the sexual safety charter?
To check that we accept Adrian. Yeah. I asked the sexual safety charter, which the trust has formally adopted, requires approval by the full board of directors, has been considered by the people. Happy to accept?
Yeah.
Thank you. And some performance.
Chair, there's nothing really that hasn't already been covered. We've looked at the financial provision, so that's fine. There was an issue that's worth raising around the block contract arrangements as well. So we're waiting some feedback from the ICB on that. We're pushing hard on that. There's been some delays. We're expecting some written confirmation that we're going to be able to assess and have a look at what that means, but in particular the assessment of services and value for money and any kind of decommissioning that might happen. And then other than that, I don't think there's anything else. There is a bit of an electronic patient record update, which we'll cover later on, but other than that, that's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've received formal notification from Janssen on that matter this week, so we'll be able to see through the agreements we've reached with that.
Thank you. We're happy to accept finance. Yeah. Thank you, Samir. Quality committee minutes take into account the comments that have been made previously in the IPR as well. Do anything there you want
just a couple of things. Just the board asked us to look at virtual work in more detail and any quality impact of the PR. Taking one report, we're taking one report for the next few months about the the capacity of the trust in terms of the staff and also the way those virtual ones are being used, and we expect an update on that early in the summer. I won't go into more detail in a minute if people wish to see that. But the final thing about the PSERV implementation. Both of my reports highlight some issues around that. First report highlighted that the business case had come forward about establishing a central investigation team, which, given the current financial position of the trust, seems to be unaffordable. That would have been the ideal situation, but the revised approach has gone through, I understand correctly, the executive group and the committee, the last committee, outlining how that's going to be taken forward on I think a pilot or trial basis over the next six months, which will involve, it's important the board is aware of this, that it will involve the trust reducing the number of local priority incidents to review. There are a set of national priority incidents that we have to review. That will not be affected, but the number of local priority incidents that will be reviewed in detail would have been, I think, if I remember correctly, something about a couple of 100%, but that's being reduced, I think by about half. It's and the whole idea of PSERV is that we look at incidents and learn from them rather than get caught up in the whole process of investigation and time scales and such like when we start on learning more. It's seeing that we'll have the capacity to look at these local incidents by utilising existing staff and additional training for existing staff, recognising that pressed. And that is going to be a challenge. And what the Quality Committee have asked for is not a report at 6 months at the end of the pilot committee, but actually a report after 3 months. So that will be month 4, if you like. A report 3 months of the first 3 months of this new approach into an approach to check that actually that we are managing to achieve what we set out to achieve. And obviously, if there are any problems with that, we will bring it to the board earlier than after the 6-month trial. But that's important, I think, that the board is aware that that is the approach that's being taken. I'm
going to take this in 2 stages. First of all, we accept the overall quality report minute. Happy with that. And the second is proposal to the board that the revised patient safety incident response framework proposal is adopted in the way that he was just outlined. Yep.
The numbers, right?
Yeah, thank you.
So we have 25 local priorities.
Thank you. 1 minute recording. Is that the number of investigations that we want to
Yeah,
take?
the local.
Yeah. So I think the numbers I was talking the total number that I was talking.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And just for clarity, and people will be taking a minute. We're asked as a board to support the revised patient safety incident response proposal,
which will be trial for 6 months.
about 6. Okay. Thank you. Move on then, colleagues, to item 170, quarter 3 review by the chief exec, and also a little bit on the back board assurance framework update from the company secretary.
So this follows obviously a revision and a session with the board about our strategic objectives and key priorities. Every quarter, we work with the exec team, trust management group, corporate and functional leads to lift our heads up a little, look at what's gone well against those strategic objectives, what areas we think we've still got some work to do and gaps, and any key risks or issues that we've done and the next quarter's priorities. Chair, I'm not going to go through this in detail because the report's pretty self-explanatory, including the summary and the slides. I think particular attention for me, when we look at the what's gone well, there is much more evidence of sustained improvement and sustained change rather than snapshot delivery or key actions that said we would deliver. So that's a theme I think I've recognised in the last couple of quarters reviews. The areas of focus for quarter 4, unsurprisingly, are hitting the year-end targets, making sure we're managing risks and planning for 24-25. but in particular, the PISA framework being launched that he was just mentioning, some concerns being raised about the pace and scale of change around some of the transformation work, like the One LFC programme that I will be updating on later on today, and making sure that we're still focusing on staff engagement and health and wellbeing. But I will pause there on a reflection of the Q3, what went well and areas of focus, and allow the company secretary just to give a view of what that means for the back to.
Just before the company secretary speaks, just for assurance purposes, the relevant subcommittee have also considered the final quarter report. Okay.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Mike. So the board assurance framework sets out the primary risks to achieving the objectives and priorities of the board and the trust each year. In the back reporting tool, which is appended to your report, you'll see the controls and mitigation that have been put in place, together with the programmes of work that have been undertaken to achieve the objectives for 24-25. Back reporting tool sets out details of governance arrangements, the assurances which have been received, and you'll see that the links to the Trust-wide Risk Register and the ICB board of BAP are also included, so that the visibility of the connection there. I mentioned Mike, BAP have been through our governance and assurance processes in the last cycle. Some actions have been identified, which we captured in the reports. For ease of reference, I've extracted them, and those are set out on page 450 to 451. I won't go through them there, but maybe just to highlight that it's very consistent with some of the issues that have been picked up during today's meeting, including things like not meeting criteria to reside, new funding streams, focus on well-led, and obviously year-end delivery, which is featured on a number of occasions. So you can see from the reports how those will map through our assurance framework. There are no particular changes to scores in terms of increasing them, given the outcomes of the review and information you've seen in our integrated performance report. But I just want to pick up on one point that Adrian made regarding risks, and you'll see that there is a proposal in light of the improving position and the successful mitigation that have been implemented in BAP risk 3, the Trust-wide Risk Register, there is a proposal to reduce from 16 to 12. With that, Mike, I would ask the board to consider that request and note that the priorities that are set out in the pages 450 to 451 will be tracked through our governance and assurance systems.
Happy to accept that proposal, lowering it from 16 to 12. Accepting, it's gone through the relevant subcommittee. Colleagues, thank you. Check the chief of that. Any other things? No check. We accept those and approve those. Thank you, colleagues. Shall we stop then for a 10-minute break? Many of you will want to drink and have a comfort. You come in 20 to 5 minutes past. Thank you very much.